Hello. We'll start in 1 minute here. Hi, everyone. Just in case you wanted to know,
Thousands of
I wanted
miles
to
through the frosty streets of St. Petersburg,
show you here.
This is a new hub for Russia's infamous trolls. A CNN investigation has found that Accra, Ghana, is the launch pad for an online operation to stoke racial tensions and stir up social unrest.
Can you see this?
Ahead of the 2021.
Can you see the?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I was with my European Union policymaking class, and there seems to be some kind of technical limits. So this is a CNN report about claims of Russian intervention, unofficial Russian intervention in the American political process, American politics, to influence the outcome of the upcoming US presidential election. And in this CNN report, this person highlights how Russian claims that Russian operatives are moving to Africa and setting up troll operations, internet troll operations to engage in cyber campaign of influence around the whole world, including in the United States and elsewhere. And I just wanted to show you that to test whether or not this was working, for one point, and another also to highlight current events in global politics and in U.S. foreign policy, and how the separation between U.S. foreign policy and domestic policy, like in the rest of the world, is becoming more and more fuzzy and blurred and unclear, right? The attempts to shape a country's foreign policy focus on trying to interfere with a country's internal politics. That's increasingly becoming the way by which we engage in international conflict and between countries, is not so much by threatening and using military force, which is very dangerous in the nuclear era, but rather instead by attempting to interfere in the internal politics of countries in order to shape the internal politics of the countries in ways that desirable people come to power in that country, and that country adopts the kind of foreign policies that I, the intervener, the initiator, want to happen, want to occur. And this is tricky, and it's difficult because of also the rise of nationalism in the whole world. Among all of the peoples of the world, people over the age of adulthood, in the adult age, are now overwhelmingly aware of politics and want to participate in politics. They want to choose their leaders. They want to decide what the policies of their communities will be, or have influence over that, because they understand that their well-being depends upon what happens in a group community that may involve hundreds of thousands, millions, hundreds of millions of people. Like China. China has 1.4 billion people there. Your typical Chinese citizen believes that the well-being and fate of that 1.4 billion people has a direct impact on his own individual personal well-being, both spiritually and materially, both in terms of dignity and economic well-being. And they all understand this. And that means that we Chinese, or we Americans, or we Koreans, or we Germans, or we French, we should determine what our policies will be. French people should determine what the policies of France will be. American people should determine what the policies of America will be. And if you're an American troll or a Russian troll intervening in American politics, or American CIA attempting to influence Iranian politics and Iranian foreign policy, you have to do it in a secret way so people in Iran do not know that it's the Americans who are carrying out this cyber war disinformation campaign. You have to make it appear that it's not American external intervention. Or if you're a Russian, you have to make it appear that it's not the Russians carrying out this intervention, that it's Americans who are expressing these points of view, that it's Americans who are saying these things. Because if people believe that, these are lies, propaganda sent over from Russia, they're not going to believe it. They're not going to be influenced by it. They're going to close their ears and their eyes, right? So that's what these cyber war disinformation campaigns involve. Deception, attempting to influence the way many Americans think, and the Americans do it too. They do it in Iran. They might do it openly or they might do it secretly. But if you do it secretly, you're doing it because you don't want the Americans to know that the Russians are pushing these viewpoints, because if the Americans believe that the Russians are behind this, they're not going to listen to it. So that's why you hide. That's why you hide in setting up a troll factory in Ghana, where you come up with fake names, fake American names, and fake American organizations as the source of the Facebook post that you have paid Facebook to post for Americans to see, like what happened 4 years ago. And this is a consequence of the rise of nationalism and also, of course, nuclear weapons. War between nuclear powers is suicide. So we fight our conflicts and compete for influence in the world, increasingly doing it indirectly, covertly, secretly, sometimes openly, but also increasingly through these disinformation campaigns, because we fight our conflicts in the nuclear era and the age of nationalism indirectly. Indirectly, indirectly, indirectly. Okay? And the internet has made this feasible, more feasible. But this didn't start with the internet. This was going on after 1945, when the first nuclear weapons were used. The Russians, meaning the communists, Moscow, and the United States engaged in competitive interference everywhere around the world. They had competitively interfered in the internal politics of countries around the world to try to control the outcome of the politics in those countries in a favorable direction for American interests or for Russian interests. And sometimes they openly intervened, right? For example, when North Korea attacked South Korea, the Americans decided they had to stop it. So they sent their military to stop it. But that happened regularly, but much more common was these secret covert wars of the KGB and the CIA, paying people, finding agents, spies, either accepting money or working behind the scenes without knowing that they are working for the Americans or the KGB in order to promote American aims and objectives or Soviet aims and objectives around the world. One of the first CIA operations was in Italy in 1948. The new CIA undertook an operation in 1948 in Italy with the first elections after the end of World War II. The first parliamentary elections after the end of World War II were in Italy. And let's see if I can find this. Italian elections, 1948. The new CIA and the KGB competed to influence the outcome of those elections to try to make sure that their friends came to power, their allies. Now, can you see this? The 1948 Italian general election? Can you see this website on Wikipedia that I'm showing now? It says I'm screen sharing. Can you see it?
Yeah. Yes, I can.
Yeah, okay. I think there's a limit on how many files I can open up, but it talks about how the KGB and the CIA were dumping lots of money. CIA, let's see if I can find CIA. Yeah, superpower influence. This was one example, but this happened everywhere, right? And it wasn't just the CIA. The KGB was involved as well in attempting in supporting the Communist Party. Yeah, according to CIA Operative Wyatt, the Communist Party really was funded by black bags of money directly put out of the Soviet compound in Rome. The Italian services were aware of this. As the elections approached, the amounts grew, and the estimates are that a lot of money was being poured in. America would pay journalists, editors, newspapers to publish pro-American articles. The communists would do this as well. And this became how we fight nuclear wars in the nuclear era, right? By competitive interference in the internal politics of Italy, Germany, Greece, Zaire, Chile, everywhere. And this is what will continue today in the world after the Cold War, but still, of course, in the nuclear era and in the age of nationalism. Okay, so that's a brief introduction to some themes and concepts that we want to introduce in this class. So I have to stop share and then share screen again to go back to my notes. And so, of course, America likes to believe that it's in favor of democracy and freedom, but at some point, if the Americans came to believe that a democratically elected government in a country was not aware or fighting, or was not fighting the communists in that country with sufficient energy, or was not willing to resist the evil efforts of Joseph Stalin or his successors to carry out coups, communist coups and overthrows to annex that country into the communist bloc, then the Americans would overthrow those democratically elected governments. And the Americans overthrew a democratically elected government in Iran in 1953 in Operation Ajax, with the CIA taking the lead, and British MI5. The British also were involved. And they overthrew Mohammad Mossadegh, a liberal democratic leader of Iran, because they thought this fool didn't understand that the Communist Party of Iran was going to overthrow him and put the communists in power. So the Americans got rid of Mossadegh and supported a military dictatorship under the Shah because they thought it was necessary to keep the communists from doing the same thing. You understand? The communists taking their orders from Stalin in Moscow. And so the Americans put the Shah, who was officially in power, but he didn't have real governing authority, and he made him in the power, well, with the military, and then the Shah, over the years until he was overthrown in 1979, became a dictator. And this is the reason why Iran is an Islamic republic today, because the Islamic leadership overthrew the Shah, who was seen as a CIA puppet, seen as a CIA creature that the CIA put in power. And that has reverberated and has continued to complicate US-Iranian relations to the present day, because the Iranians believe the American CIA is all powerful and is trying to overthrow their government, and that explains the Islamic Republic in Iran, the CIA and the Cold War. And they overthrew Allende in Chile in 1973 and helped put in power Augusto Pinochet, the military dictator there, who stayed until 1990. They helped overthrow Patrice Lumumba in the People's Republic of Congo and put Mobutu in power until the early 1990s. And then he left and they went back to the People's Democratic Republic of Congo. It's no longer Zaire. Anyway, so the Cold War has tremendous implications for the United States. But of course, the Americans always talk about democracy and freedom. The Americans claim to be the homeland of freedom and democracy, right? But the Americans would do some anti-democratic things. But of course, their explanation was that, you know, in this world we live in, sometimes you have to do a bad thing to prevent a horrible thing, right? According to St. Augustine's theory of just war, right? You can do an evil thing in order to prevent an even bigger evil thing. And the Soviet Union, remember, like I said last week, the Americans believed, rightly or wrongly, that the Soviet Union was a Russian version of Nazi Germany, armed with nuclear weapons, trying to take over the world. And since we have nuclear weapons, they're not going to try to just invade countries the way the Germans did. They're going to work through their spies and agents in the Iranian Communist Party, the Korean Communist Party, the Vietnamese Communist Party. Communists everywhere, openly and secretly, that are communists, are working with Stalin. And once a country becomes communist, much horrible things happen than a military dictatorship under an American friend that's not democratic. That's a dictator. Hey, you Koreans, the Americans point to you as an example. Who's worse, Kim Il-sung or Syngman Rhee? Kim Il-sung or Park Chung-hee? Which do you prefer? Kim Il-sung or Park Chung-hee? The North Korean totalitarian dictatorship or the military dictatorship that gave you Korea's economic miracle, the miracle on the Han River? Which do you choose? And you have to choose. In this world, you have to choose. Now, we know that Syngman Rhee wasn't a nice guy, but it was either Syngman Rhee or Kim Il-sung. That's the world we Americans lived in. The Soviet Union was trying to take over the world through subversion and totalitarian expansion, through subversion, through its agents and spies. Kim Il-sung, Ho Chi Minh, Fidel Castro, Salvador Allende, Patrice Lumumba, Nelson Mandela. And we saved the world from communist totalitarianism. We had to do some bad things, but we prevented some horrible things. Worldwide totalitarian communist domination. That's the justification. Okay? So, this is our short class today. And I want to, of course, talk a lot about the Cold War after 1945 and what's happened since the Cold War, because the Cold War ended 30 years ago, right? Long time ago. But you can't understand what's going on today unless you understand the Cold War. Like we covered last class, right? American military bases are everywhere. The American military budget is huge. I just heard this morning, by one estimate, since Donald Trump came to power as president of the United States, the US defense budget has increased 20%, not gone down, not stayed the same, has increased 20% in the last 4 years since Donald Trump was president. Even though Donald Trump says we have to end these endless wars that the Americans are involved in the Middle East, and we have to take this money in the military and spend it for American well-being. The US Defense Department budget has increased 20% in size since Donald Trump became president. That's the legacy of the Cold War, right? You have these vast vested interests that emerge during the Cold War in a big military and in their economic suppliers, and they vote in elections, and they're very smart people. They have college degrees, and they can justify their influence by saying, well, we saved the world from communist totalitarianism. Of course, America should provide global leadership. Of course, NATO is good. The World Trade Organization is good, even though Donald Trump complains about it. Okay, but and then we have the rise of China today, right? China began to rise during the Cold War. At the end of the Cold War, after the Americans lost the Vietnam War, the Americans appealed to the Chinese to help them pressure the Vietnamese and the Russians to let the Americans abandon Vietnam without looking like it was being defeated. So Richard Nixon in the early 1970s opened relations with China in order to pressure the Russians to help them in negotiating with the North Vietnamese, because the Americans can say to the Russians, you either help us or we're going to help China, because China and Russia were already in conflict with each other by late 1960s. They would even fight a border war in Siberia, right, on the Amur River. Violent one. 88 Russian soldiers died, and the estimate is 300 Chinese soldiers died fighting over the border in Siberia between China and Russia. And I think that was in 1969, the late 1960s. And then when Ronald Reagan became president in 1980, he restarted the Cold War, reinvigorated the Cold War with the Soviet Union, and really embraced China as a country to help contain the Soviet Union. And the Chinese exploited that relationship, that Cold War relationship, to gain access to American investment, to American exports, to send their children to go study at American universities, to develop their country. During the Cold War, now that's being challenged under Trump, and we'll see if Biden becomes president, really continue to challenge that. It's still the People's Republic of China, ruled by the Communist Party of China. So before I forget in our short class here, we have our first assignment. I would like you, by next Wednesday at 7 in the morning, to send me a 150-word paragraph on this topic. To South Koreans, the Chinese political system is more effective in responding to globalization than the US political system. It's a very general, fuzzy question. It's meant to be. There's no right or wrong answer to it. Okay? But whatever position you take, that the Chinese system is better at globalization or worse at globalization than America. I mean, you know, the United States system gave us Trump. The Chinese political system, they're quite willing to do business and trade with the rest of the world. Trump is the one complaining about Korea's exports. China's not complaining about South Korea's exports to China, right? America's complaining about South Korea's exports to America under Trump. You take a position and support your position with information from the readings, from chapter 1, okay? Show me where in chapter 1 there is information in the textbook that supports your idea or claim, that shows how your idea or claim or opinion is a good one because it has evidence supporting it in our class textbook. I don't have the class textbook here. I think it's on, I put it on reserve at the library. Now, I already sent you the PDF link to download the PDF file, right? If you're new to the class, please contact me by email and I'll send you the PDF file link to my Google Drive account so you can download the PDF copy of the textbook. I also told you that the PDF copy, hard copy is available, DocuCopy for you to purchase, and they're cheap, right? So you want a hard copy, it's across the street from the 7-Eleven at the entrance to the university. I don't know if anybody's new here. I haven't gotten any email that people are new. And I already told you, right, that that I also made available on the website of our university the notes for each chapter that I have uploaded in the materials area. So let me do this like this. And okay, so let me see if I can go find what I've just opened up on, and it's not appearing here. I opened up Cyber Campus, but I don't see it here. I don't see it opening up here. Well, it should open up. Let me see if I can find it with Zoom here. Cyber Campus. Okay, so let me do it one more time. And new share, go like this. And I don't see where the cyber, oh, there it is, okay. So this is the website. Here's a list of students in the class. I just sent you a message. And you go to material here, so you can see where I already loaded up the notes for chapter 1, right here. So we open them up here, download it, and so it stopped the screen share, so I have to stop share and go to like this, and I think this is it here. Okay, yeah, so these are the notes from chapter 1, and I already told you, these are my comments here. So Donald Trump talks about America first, while retreating from American alliances. But at the same time, U.S. has increased its defense budget as if it's preparing for war with Iran or with whomever. It's not reducing its number of soldiers it's put abroad. It's increasing the number of soldiers American military has deployed abroad. It's increased the number of soldiers it's sent to Saudi Arabia, for example, earlier this year and later last year. It's not reduced the American soldiers in Europe. It's moving them from Germany to Poland because Poland is more pro-American than Germany. So America first doesn't appear to mean Fortress America, withdrawing to America's borders and taking American bases and soldiers back home. It doesn't appear to involve that. It appears that America first means America must be on top and clearly appear to be the superior power over Germany, over China, over the rest of the world. So we were talking about this last class. Please send me those files. Please send me your Microsoft Word file or your Hangul writing program file to me, to my email address at Ben Didominicez, and it's not, see, oh yeah, okay, at bendidominicez@gmail.com. I think you can submit files through Cyber Campus, but I'm not completely certain that that works fully well. Like, I've tried to upload things here. No, stop share. Okay, so I have to screen share again. I've tried to upload things here under this online lecture, for example. And so this doesn't work really well, right? So I'm not going to upload files, Zoom recordings of the lectures, PowerPoint, but I'm not going to load them here because there's a problem. There's a glitch. So I'm going to upload them under materials. So you can see already. Can you see this? You all can see this? Okay.
Yes, sir.
You can see I've got, you
Yes,
know,
sir.
week 1A is when we met on Monday. 1B will be today. I showed this on August 31st. I will upload today's files. I'll call it week 1B, 4/9/20, because today is September 4th, 2020. And that's how we'll keep track of the files, okay? Okay, so we're already through. Please, and so what I'm going to do when you, let me see, stop share, and then we share screen again. And when you send me your files, I will download them and I will write comments on them and send them back to you before our Friday class. And then on Friday, we'll try to have an in-class debate. You know, you can do breakout rooms in Zoom. We'll try to use the breakout room function in Zoom and have an in-class online debate on this topic. And since you've written a paragraph on the topic, you've thought about it, you've thought about the information that you will use in your argument, and we'll have an in-class debate. Ha! That's the plan. And on Friday, that's why I'm asking you to send them to me by Wednesday, so I can spend Wednesday and Thursday looking at them and making comments and suggestions and sending them back to you, okay, before our Friday class, okay? And like I said, if you didn't get the PDF file, or let me know. I'll send it to you. And so let me go back to stop share and share screen. And how about, let's do a poll. I want to see how the polling works here. And okay, so can you see this? Can you see this poll? Please vote yes or no on whether you think Trump will remain in power for a second term as US president. Is he going to be reelected? Do you think Donald Trump is going to stay in power for another 4 years? So let me launch the poll. Okay, so there it says there are 8 people attending. And by the way, I'll use the Zoom. Zoom has a record of who logged in to attend. So I was told I'm supposed to use that Zoom record about who logged in order to note attendance for class. So that's what I'll do. I'm not going to ask you if you're here. Zoom will tell me who is here. Okay. So all 8 have voted. So the majority of you, 5 of you, think that Trump is going to be reelected. And I have to say that I think. Let me tell you why this is a controversial question. The best source of news, or at least the most influential source of news in the United States, is the New York Times, right? So let me show you. If I open up a New York Times article here, here's a New York Times article. Let's see if you can see it here. And so it says you can see this. Can you see that New York Times article? It says you are screen share. Can you see this? Putin.
Your internet connection is pretty slow, so like it takes us 5 seconds after you actually open up the thing.
Yeah. I mean, I'm using the landline connection at the university. I'm not on Wi-Fi.
So
yeah. Okay.
It doesn't show up right away.
Okay. So I read the New York Times, and the New York Times, only one tiny fraction of the people of the United States read the New York Times. And when you read the New York Times, they tell you what the polls are suggesting, and the odds are right now that Donald Trump is going to lose. But we all know 4 years ago, the same polls were telling us that Hillary Clinton was going to win to become president. But there are other people who are pointing out that the people that love Donald Trump are really excited about him. Not many people are really excited about Joe Biden. They will vote for Joe Biden because they hate Donald Trump. But Trump supporters are enthusiastic. And I have to keep that in mind. You and me, the kind of people that take this class, who follow current events closely, we're very unusual and very small as a segment of the population. And I have to say, I'm grateful that I have contact with my family, because my family in America are working class people. I have some family members who went to college, most have not. And they are, I call them on the phone, and I talk to them at least once a week. And I make sure I don't get excited or angry or upset, but they talk like Trump supporters. They talk about how the COVID-19 epidemic is exaggerated, about how the protesters against racism against black people are spreading the virus, so they're to blame. So some people claim that we might be surprised again in 2 months, like we were surprised 4 years ago. And a person who ran for president in 2012, Mitt Romney, as a Republican, who's now a senator from Utah, he has twice in the last couple of months predicted that Donald Trump will be reelected. Even though he hates Donald Trump, he voted to remove Donald Trump from office several months ago, at the beginning of this year. He condemns Donald Trump's rhetoric, but twice he has said in this year that Donald Trump will be reelected because young people, 75% of young people from age 18 to 24, for example, who don't like Donald Trump, 75% of those people traditionally do not vote in elections. 3/4. Who votes in US elections? Old people like me. And Donald Trump is more popular among old people. So I'm not so certain. And then he might try to steal the election. He might claim that there was fraud. He might try to, I mean, there are many different scenarios involved in which it might well step into the situation where the Supreme Court has to decide the outcome of the election again, as happened 20 years ago, when the Supreme Court had to decide who won the US election between Al Gore, Vice President under Bill Clinton, and George W. Bush. I can imagine that happening again. You know, one of the reasons why I like teaching is because it makes me think through things that I don't think through, because I have to talk about them to you. And I'm just surprised. And I read the New York Times every day, everything. I spend hours. And nobody in the New York Times is talking about has yet said anything about the Supreme Court of the United States having to decide the outcome of the election in next election. They've talked about scenarios how Donald Trump will claim that the election was stolen, that the ballots are late, that the mail is, there's corruption, that there is fraud, because many people are voting by mail because of the disease coronavirus. They don't want to go vote in the election, and they're going to send in their mail, like I will. But nobody has said that the outcome may well be that the Supreme Court may have to decide the outcome of the election. And I just realized right now that that's really the most likely outcome. And the New York Times has never said that. Nobody writing for the New York Times has said that the Supreme Court might have to decide the outcome of the election again. And I just realized, yeah, like what happened 20 years ago. How can they have not? Well, wow. I mean, literally, I spend at this amazing time in world history with the pandemic and the Great Depression. I read everything in the New York Times, everything, because this is a once in a century event, and nobody has mentioned. So that's yeah.
So sorry, do you claim that New York Times already know that Donald Trump is?
Well, the problem is the New York Times tends to disproportionately, people that read it tend to be left of center, progressive leftists. They tend to be more educated, and these people talk to each other, right? They're college professors and college students and college professors. They talk to each other. They don't talk to people like my family in the US, because they're not in their world. Who's in my world? You're in my world. Professors are in my world. My college roommates and friends in the US are in my world, and we talk to each other, and we read the New York Times, and we talk to each other, and we reinforce each other's beliefs, and then, boom, there's an election where everybody can vote. Everybody has one vote, and Hillary Clinton lost. But, and that's the danger of the New York Times. This is an elite newspaper. Right? And these people, elites, read and talk with other elites, and they lose connection with the broader mass of the public. That's Donald Trump's hope, right? That there'll be a combination of fear. I already told you, even normal elections, even though young people hate racism, young people support Black Lives Matter, right? But traditionally, I told you, 75% of young people don't bother to vote. Is
So
that going to
it means
change?
that
It didn't change in the primary elections for Bernie Sanders, the socialist running in the Democratic primary for president nomination. He lost to Joe Biden. His whole focus was on Hispanic, mobilizing Hispanic voters and young people. And the young people didn't turn out for him. Sorry, what was your question?
so it means that New York Times doesn't examine or doesn't like the Trump supporters.
Right. The New York Times editorial page doesn't, like Trump. Yeah. They're afraid. They think that he is a fascist. He's a fascist. He's an authoritarian populist. The reason why he can't act like Mussolini is because America is not in a condition domestically in terms of polarization and anger and hostility like Germany was in the 1920s or Italy was to support what he wants to do. But he is an authoritarian populist. He is a fascist. So, and I'm concerned too. But what I want to happen, I have to keep separate from my analytical skills. I have to try to stay detached. I can't let what I want shape how I think. I'm supposed to be a social scientist, right? I'm not supposed to allow what I want to see in the world determine how I analyze the world. But we do public opinion polls, and the public opinion polls show that Joe Biden is ahead of Donald Trump. They also show, some of them, the public opinion polls, that the difference between Trump and Biden is closing. Now, keep in mind, Hillary Clinton got 2.8% more votes than Donald Trump, but she still lost because of the electoral college system in the US. She got almost 3 million more votes than he did, but he won the election because of the electoral college. That's his plan as well. He doesn't care about California. He doesn't care about New York State. He's not going to win California, and he's not going to win New York State. He doesn't care. He's focused on Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Ohio, and Minnesota. And Florida, and North Carolina, and Colorado. Texas is for Trump. Arizona is for Trump. Alabama, Louisiana, he doesn't worry. California, Oregon, Washington, New York, Massachusetts, they're all for Biden. It's those 10 states where the battle is being fought. And the difference between Biden and Trump is much smaller than an overall difference nationally between Biden and Trump. So, the Russians are attempting to influence and polarize America, make Americans scared, right? When nationalistic peoples become scared, they tend to support more traditional authoritarian leaders, make Americans more hostile towards each other, make Americans more fearful of each other. That's the theme of this story, right? Make Americans hate each other more. But you have to hide who is the source of this propaganda. So it has to look like it's not coming from the Russians or the Chinese or the Iranians or whomever, or the North Koreans, whomever. It has to look like it's coming from other Americans. Like they did in 2016, what the Internet Research Agency highlighted in St. Petersburg. And keep in mind, Trump became president because of 70,000 votes. 70,000 votes won him the election in the electoral college system in the United States. If I can try to go to Wikipedia here. So we go to Wikipedia, US presidential election, 2016. And it says that you are able to see the screen. And so we see here, so Donald Trump won Wisconsin. He won Wisconsin by 20,000 votes. So he got all 10 electoral college votes. Hillary Clinton, she won California by almost 4 million votes, 3.5 million votes. So she got all of these electoral college votes. But the winner becomes president who wins 270 electoral college votes. Trump got 304. When you add up these red states, what? 6, 15, that's 13, 18, 21, 24, 27. This is the Electoral College. So Trump won Pennsylvania by 50,000 votes. And so he got all 20 of the Electoral College votes. So we all know that Biden will win this, Biden will win this, Biden will win Illinois, but the fight is over Pennsylvania, Ohio, Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Florida, North Carolina. So Trump is not going to spend any money, election campaign money in Texas, because they're always going to vote Republican. It doesn't matter who they nominate. Same with these smaller states. So, and so the troll factory, the Russian troll agency, is trying to influence the elections in these key states, like Michigan, right? He won by 11,000 votes in Michigan. So he got all 16 of the Electoral College votes of Michigan. So that's the vulnerability of this troll, of this intervention in U.S. Government elections. And this, of course, the Russians deny they're doing this. No, we're not doing this. We're not doing that. They always deny it. And of course, the Russians aren't the only one that did this. The Americans did this during the Cold War, as I already described, right? My professor, when I was studying Middle East politics in the 1980s, his name was Richard Cotton. He was one of the authors of this book. Can you see this book? He's one of the authors of this book here. He was in the CIA when the United States carried out Operation Ajax against Mohammad Mossadegh in Iran. And he said there were 50 newspapers in Tehran, and the CIA was funding 40 of them to publish the CIA's points of view about who the good and the bad guys in Iranian politics were in the 1953 and the 1951 elections in Iran that led to the election of Mohammad Mossadegh. And they would pay Iranians to write those articles and post them. They didn't say, brought to you by the CIA. They didn't say that. This is how big powers competing for influence, Soviet Union, China, United States, they indirectly compete covertly in the internal politics of other countries. This isn't new. This isn't something that's just new with Facebook and Twitter. No. It's old. But Facebook has made it a lot easier. Global internet has made it a lot easier. And so the Chinese know this, right? So they have the Great Firewall, and they try to prevent this kind of involvement. And maybe the CIA will do the same thing. They're trying to push Mark Zuckerberg of Facebook and the others to stop disinformation and the like, but you know, he doesn't want to, and Trump doesn't want him to. And what else do I want to cover? Because this is our short class. Again, if you have any questions, please don't be shy in asking them, because we run out of time here and our short class. So if let's see what else I had lined up here for the class. Can you see this? I mean, this is the New York Times. You can see that another New York Times report warning about Russian interference in the, let's see if I can share this. Is that what I want here? No, that's the wrong. Oh yeah, this is the right one. New York Times from just yesterday. Facebook and Twitter, the company said that the FBI, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, had warned them that the Kremlin-backed Internet Research Agency set up a network of fake user accounts and a website. The Russian group interfered in the 2016 presidential election, is at it again, using a network of fake accounts and their website set up to look like a left-wing news site, Facebook and Twitter said on Tuesday. The disinformation campaign by the Kremlin-backed group known as the Internet Research Agency is the first public evidence that the agency is trying to repeat its efforts from 4 years ago and push voters away from Democratic presidential candidate Joseph R. Biden Jr. to help President Trump. Remember, the age of nationalism and nuclear weapons together motivate this kind of behavior, generate this kind of behavior. The fake network and site did not reach as big an audience as the group's efforts in 2016, but the campaign came with a new wrinkle. The Russians hired real Americans to write for the website. The site, called Peace Data, also used personas with computer-generated images to create what looked like a legitimate news organization. The Internet Research Agency was very active in the 2016 presidential election, and a recent bipartisan Senate Intelligence Committee report detailed Russian interference in support of Mr. Trump's election. But the Peace Data site appeared to be more of a worrying example of information laundering, a more covert and potentially dangerous effort by Moscow. Russian intelligence agencies have used allies and operatives to place articles, including disinformation, to various fringe websites. The goal, said Nathaniel Gleicher, Facebook's head of security, appeared to be to drive people to the Peace Data site, which built itself as a global news organization. Officials from the National Security Agency, one of the 17 intelligence agencies, and Cyber Command declined to comment. But in an article last month in Foreign Affairs, General Paul M. Nakasone, who leads both organizations, said that in the 2018 midterm elections for Congress, threats detected by the two agencies were shared with the FBI. Okay, so please respond. So another poll. The Russian disinformation cyber campaign to polarize U.S. presidential public opinion, is an act of Russian aggression against the U.S. So this is our last activity for the day. So let me go back to polling, stop sharing, and do this, and like this. So launch poll. Please respond to the following statement. The Russian disinformation cyber campaign to polarize U.S. public opinion is an act of Russian aggression against the U.S. I think this is anonymous. Strongly agree, agree, neutral, disagree, strongly disagree. Please vote. We have 3 more. One more. Okay. Or that's it. Yeah, that's it. Okay. So you agree. Okay. So we'll have to stop there. And we'll have to talk about what aggression is. I mean, but the fact that, the Russians say, no, we aren't doing it. We're not doing it. We're not doing it. And the U.S. says, yes, you are. And they say, no, we're not. But they have to say they're not if they're going to have any influence. But remember, most people don't read the New York Times. 99% of Americans, 99.9% of Americans do not read the New York Times. They don't read any news. They just look at the internet and Facebook and Twitter. Okay, we have to stop there. We have to get off the network because this is shared by other faculty. Okay, any questions? If not, I will record this and I'll upload it, a link to the cyber campus, okay? Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Professor.